Good morning, everyone. For teleSUR, I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas, Venezuela. First, we go to Cuba, where the second round of conversations between the U.S. and Cuban governmental delegations have come to a close. Now, the dialogue is aimed at advancing the reestablishment of diplomatic relations between the two countries. The meeting was held in Havana. The conversations focused on the themes of democracy and human rights. The delegations also analyzed the possibility of strengthening bilateral cooperation in a number of areas. The Cuban representatives are confident that the meetings will provide the basis for a peaceful and respectful relationship with the U.S., which has maintained a blockade against the country for over 50 years. The Mexican Attorney General says that the 42 students missing from Ayotzinapa are most certainly dead. The students' parents and their supporters continue their demand for evidence. This week, they are in the Mexican capital building support for a mega march planned for next Monday that will mark 4 months since the Ayotzinapa students disappeared at the hands of police in Guerrero. We now turn to our correspondent in Mexico, Clayton Kahn.
In recent days, families of the 42 disappeared Ayotzinapa students have been in the Mexican capital, meeting with grassroots organizations, preparing their next actions, and building coalitions.
We're not used to doing all of this. It's a nightmare that we're going through and haven't been able to wake up from.
However, with nearly 4 months since police in Guerrero attacked and illegally detained the students, the families and their supporters say they want to rekindle their movement for justice in the case, which saw a drop in intensity due to winter vacations.
In the context of the 4-month anniversary, we want to do something big, a united activity that can demonstrate the disagreement and the indignation that we have as long as our mates are in return. Mexico continues to wait for the disappeared people.
Yet many socially conscious documentarians, photographers, and videographers have assumed a task that they say will make sure that the movement around Ayotzinapa will not flicker out.
This power of the image is a political tool that will construct other memories, plural memories, memories that can create ruptures in the hegemonic memory of the mainstream press.
These visual activists say they hope that their images will ingrain a lesson into Mexico's collective conscious to be constantly wary of allowing for future Ayotzinapa tragedies to repeat. Clayton Kahn, teleSUR, Mexico City.
Thanks to Clayton. And in Honduras, disputes over promotions of new military officers are creating conflicts between the chief of the armed forces and the vice president. Honduran Vice President Ricardo Alvarez tweeted that he had recently received threats from the chief, Freddy Diaz. For more on this dispute, we go to our correspondent in Honduras, Gerardo Torres.
According to the defense authorities of Honduras, the Vice President Ricardo Alvarez has accused the chief of the military, General Freddy Diaz, of making threats against his life after his original choice was not able to accept the promotion.
When the promotions of the military were announced in December, Ricardo Alvarez wanted an official that had not met all the requirements and the guidelines within the army and was his principal aide, head of his personal security. He wanted him to be promoted, but this official had personal problems that meant he could not accept the promotion, and that's the origin of this discussion. This has created problems between him and the head of the central command of the military.
The vice president wrote in his Twitter account that if anything would happen to him or to his family, it would be responsibility of the general. Some politicians believe that this is a consequence of too much political intervention in military matters.
Unfortunately, the armed forces have lost their independence. There is a tendency to politicize them, and definitively there is no respect for the constitutive law of the armed forces. Unfortunately, politicians are trying to manipulate the military too much, in both the promotions of the armed forces but also the national police.
The security of the president and vice president in Honduras is provided by the military forces, and the accusations could mean new confrontations between the military and the executive, such as the ones that happened during the coup d'etat 5 years ago. The military are yet to comment of the vice president's tweets. Gerardo Torres, teleSUR, Central America.
Thanks to Gerardo. Moving to world news now. King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia has died at the age of 90 after being in the hospital for several weeks, suffering from a lung infection. The monarch will be succeeded by his brother, Crown Prince and Defense Minister Salam. Salam is 79 years old. He had recently taken charge of the ailing king's responsibilities. Several world leaders, including U.S. President Barack Obama, have expressed their condolences to the royal family and the Saudi people following the death of the king. In Greece, thousands gathered in central Athens yesterday, where Syriza leader Alexis Tsipras spoke, along with Pablo Iglesias of Spain's Podemos party. It represented a coming together of left-wing European leaders and activists. Greece's legislative elections are set for Sunday to elect all 300 members of the Hellenic Parliament. The Greek Parliament failed to elect a president on December 29th, forcing snap elections. Syriza leads the polls against the conservative New Democracy Party. The election has been characterized as one of the most important in Greece in 40 years. In Germany, William Beeney called the leaders of the U.S.'s National Security Agency cowards as he received the Integrity and Intelligence Award in Berlin yesterday. The award is given annually to people who work in intelligence and show integrity and ethics. In 2014, Chelsea Manning won the award, and Edward Snowden in 2013. Beeney says the NSA leadership is, quote, afraid of the truth. And in the United States, the government has admitted that one of the prisoners detained and tortured in Guantanamo was in fact innocent. Australian former detainee David Hicks is innocent, his lawyer said today. It comes after the legal team was told that the U.S. government did not dispute his innocence. In 2001, Hicks was captured by Northern Alliance militant coalition, which fought against the Taliban until late 2001. A Northern Alliance-aligned warlord sold Hicks to U.S. forces for $5,000. Hicks alleges he was sexually abused, routinely deprived of sleep, beaten, kept in solitary confinement almost 24 hours a day, and administered an unidentified medication. He also says he saw attack dogs released on another prisoner. Meanwhile, in Yemen, after months of political unrest, President Abdul Rabu Mansour Hadi and his cabinet have resigned. The resignations were part of a tentative peace deal struck with the Houthi rebels, who have seized vast swaths of the country and led mass protests against the U.S.-backed Hadi government since last year. If they gain power, the Houthi are likely to bring an end to unpopular U.S. drone strikes, which human rights groups say have killed hundreds of Yemeni civilians. The U.S. has responded to Hadi's resignation by pulling more staff out of its embassy in Yemen. In Italy, protesters took to the streets of Florence yesterday to protest what they say is a Europe of bankers and lords. It came as German Chancellor Angela Merkel arrived in the Tuscan capital for a bilateral meeting with Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi. Today, Merkel is also scheduled to meet with Italian and German businessmen. Finally, we end today in Costa Rica. That's where an animal rescue center is exploring options to fit a toucan with a prosthetic beak after being attacked by people with sticks. The 9-month-old bird lost the entire top part of its beak following the attack earlier this year. The severity of the wounds mean the toucan will have to remain in captivity as it can't eat or drink by itself. However, 3 companies that work with 3D printing have looked at designing a prosthesis for the bird, which it could use once the wounds heal. The Animal Rescue Center receives about 3,100 animals a year who are abused, orphaned, or trafficked. There are currently no laws in Costa Rica for punishing such treatment of animals. Get well soon. More on those stories and others at our website, telesurtv.net/English. For teleSUR English, I'm Cody Weddle. Have a great day.